Virgil Sullivan, a seasoned detective, sat amidst the comfortable disarray of his time-worn office, its walls a cacophony of unsolved cases and haunting mementos of a life spent chasing shadows. Each wrinkle on his face was a line in a somber poem, and his eyes, twin wells of unshed sorrow, held the echo of his siblings' laughter, their lives snuffed out all too early. On this day, a singularly oppressive afternoon in June, the routine stillness of his office was shattered by the frantic beating of a nun's habit against his door. Sister Agnes, her face a mask of desperate urgency, implored him to journey to a small town seemingly untouched by time, Champaign, Illinois. "Children, Mr. Sullivan," she whispered, a tremble in her voice as tangible as the fluttering hands she clasped together. "Orphans, exploited and disappearing under unnatural circumstances." Virgil studied her, an open book under his penetrating gaze. Her eyes reflected something beyond mere concern. It was raw, primal fear. The knot in his stomach tightened and the ghost of a forgotten trauma shivered through him. He felt the pull of something dark yet to be revealed, a spectral cord tethered to his very soul. Over cups of lukewarm coffee, he listened as the sister spoke of children lured by promises of security, adopted by well-off families, and then gone. Nothing left but a chilling absence in the echoes of lives too young to be extinguished. "But why me, sister?" he asked, his voice as gravelly as a deserted country road at midnight. "Because," she paused, choosing her words with careful precision, "I believe the local authorities are compromised. There's a malevolence that appears to sway them, and I believe it's a malevolence you've faced before." The statement hung in the air, heavy with unspoken implications. He leaned back, his chair groaning under the weight of his thoughts. He saw the image of his siblings in his mind's eye, their laughter still vivid despite the cruelty of time. The loss had imbued in him an undying sense of duty. He couldn't stand by while another child suffered. Upon his arrival in Champaign, Virgil was greeted with an unsettling veneer of cheerfulness, as if the town itself wore a mask of normality. The streets were clean, a little too clean. The houses appeared cookie-cutter perfect. The people, oddly synchronized in their greetings, wore smiles that didn't quite reach their eyes. Every aspect of the town hummed with a rhythm too precise, an uncanny order that crawled beneath his skin. At the heart of this unnerving harmony stood the orphanage, a benign two-story Victorian house, innocuously nestled among a copse of whispering willow trees. The children, upon his initial inspection, seemed as normal as any orphans could be. Yet their laughs lacked the spontaneous chaos of childhood, and their games followed an almost ritualistic pattern. Conversations with the townsfolk yielded only praise for the orphanage. They lauded the carers, a surprisingly young couple with fixed smiles and hollow gazes, as saints. Their speech was eerily uniform, as if echoing from the same hollow void. The unease within him intensified. The town was a broken record, playing the same tune over and over again. One night as he wandered the labyrinthine lanes of Champaign, a small figure darted past him. The child, his eyes wide and haunted, clung to him with trembling hands. His whispers held echoes of rituals, shadows moving where there shouldn't be any, and hushed voices in the dead of the night. The townsfolk, he confided, weren't themselves anymore. Virgil looked down at the frail figure, his heart pounding with a ferocity that echoed his siblings' faded laughter. The desperation in the boy's eyes mirrored his own past, rekindling an old flame of vengeance within him. His resolve hardened. He would lay bare the darkness lurking beneath Champaign's facade. As he returned the terrified child to Sister Agnes, who had secretly followed him to Champaign, he knew his journey was only beginning. The truth lay somewhere beneath the town's artificial tranquility, beneath the orphanage's angelic exterior, beneath the rehearsed smiles of the townsfolk. This was not a mere case of fraud, but something far more sinister, a cosmic puzzle waiting to be unraveled. His descent into the abyss had only just begun. As the cruel grasp of winter blanketed Champaign, Virgil found himself delving deeper into the town's icy secrets. He had begun to notice the subtly hidden symbols, the clandestine gatherings, and the murmurs that rippled beneath the surface of the townsfolk's rehearsed smiles. His investigations led him to an ancient, foreboding edifice, a grim behemoth nestled within the heart of the town. It was a husk of a building that breathed with a dark history, its dread palpable in every grotesque brick and frost-covered archway. This was the pulsating heart of the darkness, the den of the cult of the void. Each step he took within this grotesque building further stripped away the shroud of normality that Champagne wore. Here, under flickering shadows, the truth lay in stark relief. The eerie echoes of their twisted chants permeated the chilly air, whispers of sacrifices and dark prophecies, all devoted to an ancient cosmic entity. Their deity, referred to as the Void, was not a metaphorical construct, but an actual being they worshipped with fanatical fervor. His every discovery, every unearthed secret etched deeper lines onto his face. He was no stranger to the grotesque, but this cult presented an existential terror that shook him to his core. The reality of Champagne was crumbling, revealing a horrifying abyss beneath. One evening, as he stared at the dancing shadows cast by the fire in his temporary lodgings, he came to a grim realization. His fate and that of his siblings were entwined with the children of the orphanage. This was not merely about justice or revenge. It was a personal fight against the cosmic horror that had puppeteered his life's tragedies. As he delved deeper into the void, he began to feel the world around him twist and churn. The lines between reality and nightmare blurred. The town's eerie tranquility was being replaced by a cold, inescapable dread. But there was no turning back. He knew he had to expose the cult. This chapter of his life would not end in submission. It would end in defiance. He would either illuminate the town's darkness or be consumed by it. Champagne, under the pallid glow of the full moon, bared its teeth. The normally quiet streets whispered with secretive, sinister movements. Virgil, steeling himself for the looming confrontation, embarked upon his final act of defiance against the horrifying grip of the cult. Under the ashen sky, the decrepit cult hideout loomed more menacing than ever. As he stepped through the gaping maw of its entrance, the chilling stillness gripped him, a visceral shroud of silent threats. The eerie hush was shattered only by the relentless ticking of a grandfather clock, each tick a heartbeat in the life of the abyss. Within the heart of this grotesque edifice, he found them, the cultists cloaked in shadow, their faces masks of ecstatic devotion. A sacrificial ritual was unfolding, a disturbing spectacle devoted to the cosmic entity they worshipped. At the sight of Virgil, their chants ceased, their hollow eyes turned toward him, a single unified gaze that held an eternity of darkness. Summoning his courage, he confronted them, his voice echoing through the crypt-like silence. But the cosmic horror they served was far from a mere figment of religious zeal. As he challenged the cult, reality buckled around him. The familiar confines of the building warped, the edges of the room stretched into oblivion, and the cultists seemed to distort, their human forms crumbling into indescribable figures. The deity rose before him, a cosmic horror, indescribable and unfathomable. It was a figure that defied reality, a monstrosity that made the detective feel insignificant, as inconsequential as a grain of sand against the infinite cosmic beach. This confrontation was his final act of defiance, a rebellion against the terror that had claimed his siblings and now threatened the children of Champagne. Despite his valiant efforts, the dark entity overpowered him, consuming him in an embrace as cold as the void of space itself. His life was extinguished, yet in the timeless space between seconds, his death felt drawn out into an eternity of torment. His last thought was not of fear, but of hope. He had laid the horrors of Champagne bare and exposed the cult for what it truly was. With his sacrifice, the seeds of rebellion were sown within the townsfolk. But in the end, the cosmic horror remained, forever lurking in the darkest corners of the universe. Virgil's tale ended, but his legacy lived on, a beacon of light against the cosmic dark. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed our content, show your support with a like and subscribe, and stay notified by hitting the bell icon. Expect more cosmic horror from Eldritch Tales Factory, and feel free to explore our other stories. See you in the next video.